I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, in Shalom, to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Shabai from the GMS Denver camp, and I'm going to go in today or this morning on what happened here. I'm going to go in on Isaiah, the 29th chapter. Let's see. Starting at the top, it says, "Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add ye year to year, let them kill sacrifices." All right, and just so you know, Ariel is another word for Jerusalem, okay? And it means lion of God or lion of Yahweh. Or it also goes into lioness of Yahweh, okay? But that's Ariel is another word for Jerusalem. It says, "Yet I will distress Ariel, and there shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be unto me as Ariel." Okay, because you had our people were going off, right? They were the Israelites throughout history. We fucked up. That's why we're in the condition we're in now. Okay, that's why we're still in captivity. But let's keep reading. It says, "And I will camp against thee round about, and I will lay siege against thee with a mount, and I will raise forts against thee." Right? So bringing other nations against us. Yahweh, hey, he's always throughout the history of the Israelites, Yahweh has brought the other nations against us. And it all goes back to our disobedience. We're being punished. That's why we've been in so many captivities. Okay, the Egyptian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity, the Persian captivity, the Greek and Roman, American. These are all our captivities, and it goes into because we've been disobedient. It says, "And thou shalt be brought down, and shalt speak out of the ground, and thy speech shall be low out of the dust, and thy voice shall be as one that hath a familiar spirit out of the ground, and thy speech shall whisper out of thy dust." And the dust, we know, goes into confusion, okay? Because when we turn our backs against Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, when we start doing, different things that we were never called to do, as like idolatry, worshiping other gods, worshiping the gods of the heathen, which are idols, right? The Bible speaks on that. Those are all familiar spirits. The only true spirit is to be in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. Okay, anything else would be considered a familiar spirit and confusion. "Moreover, thy multitude of thy strangers shall be like small dust, and the multitude of the terrible ones shall be as chaff that passeth away. Yea, it shall be at an instant, suddenly. Thou shalt be visited of Yahweh of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and great noise, and with storm, and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire." Okay? So this goes into, some of the chapters in the scriptures, when you read them, they bounce from, different time frames, different ages, because obviously that devouring fire, that's going to be a prophecy that has yet to come to pass, because this is actually going to be a lot of our people are going to perish because they remain in the dust, they remain in the confusion, right? They don't repent, they don't come into the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. All right, so our people, the 2/3, are going to be punished for their wickedness. All right, it says, and the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel. But remember, Ariel is Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. Okay, so this is really talking about the nations coming against the people, the Israelites. Okay, even all that fight against her and her munition, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. Okay, because the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yashai is going to take away the rulership of all of these heathen nations. You know, in this last captivity that we're in, the Babylonian American captivity, which is, you know, we're being ruled over by the oppressor, which the main oppressor right now is Esau Edom, the so-called white man, right? So he's going to be like a night vision, you know. He's going to be as a dream of a night vision, meaning something that eventually it just goes away. And that's what's going to happen to Esau Edom. There, it says in Obadiah, none shall be left out of the house of Esau, right? But all of these nations had their part in, you know, devouring the Israelites, destroying us, right? Taking us into captivity. They all had an opportunity to rule over us. And again, it's not because these heathen nations are something special, but it's because of our disobedience. You know, Yahweh Bashem El-Shai, that they put us in punishment. You know, we're fulfilling the curses, right? That we're told that would come upon us for disobedience. Okay? You see in even here in Babylon, America, you see what's happening with ICE, right? The so-called Mexicans, who are the tribe of Issachar, they're like the primary target, right? What they call them, illegal aliens. We see, who are these illegal aliens, so-called Mexicans? Their real name, Yahweh calls them the tribe of Issachar. Who are they calling on? They're calling on Jesus Christos, which that's a false idol. And this is why Yahweh allows them to be punished, right? And it goes into all the tribes who are going to be oppressed and you know, the so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, you know, he's come against all the tribes, not just Issachar. But that's the best example right now in these current times, because predominantly that's who ICE is going after, right? So, you know, we always go into Psalm 83 because it gives us a list of the enemies of Israel, right? And it starts out with the so-called white man. Psalm 83 in 1, it says, a song or a psalm of Asaph, keep not thou silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Okay, and the one that the chief enemy is Esau Edom, right? The serpent. And what do snakes do when they're about to attack? They lift their head up. You see, it's the same old serpent, right? Spoken about in Genesis. You know, the snake. You know, verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. And who are the people? The Israelites. And consulted against thy hidden ones. And who are the hidden ones? The Israelites. Why are we the hidden ones? Because, you know, no one ever told us that we were the Israelites here in Babylon. Except for until the prophets were raised up. Starting out with our elder Abba Bivens, right? He was the first to tell the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans that, hey, you the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, you're the ones who fit the curses, right? You want to see who's cursed in Babylon, America? You want to see who the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter? Who do those curses line up with? It lines up with you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. You're the hidden ones, okay? It says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That all these heathen nations, they don't want us to know that we are the Israelites. Okay? For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And confederate means together. So all these nations have always been together against the Israelites, because they're basically, they don't want us to know that we are God's chosen people. And the wicked ass 2/3 of our own people, they don't come out of this of this slumber, of this dead mindset. They sit there and they really believe that Yahweh, well, they call him God. They believe God is for everybody. They believe God he doesn't have enemies and we don't have enemies, and all this whole bullshit that they've been taught, all these lies they've been taught in the pagan Christian church and all the other false doctrines that they follow. See, but the elect are going to be the ones who come to the true understanding and are able to, discern through the Holy Spirit what's actually going on and what's actually the truth. It says that these are the nations that are confederate against us. It says in verse 6, the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. All right, so it's going into all of our enemies. Edom is the so-called white man, Ishmaelites, these Arabs, Moabites, these so-called Chinese, and the list goes on and on. You have even so-called African tribes, which they're actually not Africans, they're Philistines and Tyre. Those are the Hamites. And then Amalek right in the middle. Amalek obviously being the chief tribe of the so-called white man, the chief tribe of Esau Edom, which are the fake Jews, the small hats. Okay, Ammon being the Japanese, so-called Japanese, right? You have all these different heritages which are our enemies, and they've been our enemies, and they've been confederate against us all the way going back to when the scriptures were inspired to be documented by the prophets of old. See, but again, you can't tell the 2/3 that we have a whole nations of enemies, because they don't believe that. They'll tell you, oh, we're all God's children. Oh, everybody can have salvation. Everybody has a chance to repent. No, that's not the case. That's why, we're being punished, because you have our people that are believing nothing but lies, nothing but bullshit that the enemies of our people have taught them, in all these different captivities that we've been in, right? And I like to go to 2nd Ezra 6th chapter, as it tells you, 2nd Ezra 6 and towards the end, 56 maybe, 57. It says, and now, 2nd Ezra 6:57, and now, O Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, behold, these heathen, which heathen means nations, which have ever been reputed as nothing, because the Most High looks at the heathen as nothing. All right, He doesn't. Most High don't give a damn about the heathen. Okay, the heathen's going to be destroyed. It says, and now, O Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. See that? So the heathen nations have devoured our people. And we, the Most High, He allowed it because of our disobedience. And also, one of the curses is that we were scattered among all the nations. So now you have Israelites in every single nations, we're all the heathen. We mixed with the heathen. We took on the heathen women. Some of our women, have, obviously dealt with heathen men. And then their offspring are become heathen. Because the bloodline goes through the father. So even that's a curse. When an Israelite woman, she bears children with a heathen man, well, her children become heathen. They're not Israelites. She's an Israelite, but her children are not Israelites. That whole mixed race notion, that's a lie that Esau Edom in the Western world, has taught you, like, oh, you're a Heinz 57. Oh, your DNA, what is it, 23andMe or whatever, all that bullshit. No, the Most High, He acknowledges one race. When there's no such thing as a mixed race. When you have, when you go into the scriptures, you're whatever your father is, not what your mother. Your mother has no bearing on your heritage. Okay. She's not going to have a part in what type of nationality you are in the eyes of Yahweh. You are what your father is, okay? So that's even a curse, is the point I'm making. When the Israelite women, they get knocked up by the heathen men, the so-called white man pops a so-called black woman and they have a child. Well, that's a heathen. That's an Edomite. All right, you're the seed of your father. You could read about that in Numbers 1:18. I'm not going to go there, but that's Numbers 1:18. Pedigrees of your father. All right, Isaiah 29 and let's see, verse 8. It says, "It shall even be as when an hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint, and his soul hath appetite. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fought against Mount Zion." Right? So the heathen nations, they've always been our enemies. They've always came against us. And in these last days, it's going to be nothing good for the heathen. And if you're an Israelite and you're in a heathen mindset, you're going to die like the heathen. You're going to die right alongside with the heathen. Okay? Only the elect of Israel, only the ones who repent and come into the true knowledge, and you're calling on the true names, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, and you're in your right mindset. You understand you have enemies. All right. Now, does that mean we act like fools here in Babylon? No, we gotta, we gotta get along with the heathen. Until Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it says in the scriptures, vengeance is mine from Yahweh. So He's going to take vengeance. He's going to send His Son in the heavenly host, the chariots, the angels, and they're going to be parts of the destruction, right along with the nuclear missiles. Okay? It says in verse 9, "Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out, and cry, they are drunken, but not with wine, they stagger, but not with strong drink." You see that? And our people, this is talking about our people. They are drunken, but not with wine, right? So you're not, and wine is a metaphor for doctrines. So we have the new wine, which is a refreshed wine, right? The word new, it means refreshed. So it's the true doctrine that's being refreshed in the elect. Okay, we're coming into the true understanding, the true knowledge. We're teaching the elect on these lessons, on these videos, on the street corners. Wisdom crieth out in the streets. Okay? But our people are drunken off the philosophies and the doctrines and the religions of the heathen. Right? Pagan Christianity, Jehovah's wickedness, Catholicism. These are all things that our people are drunk off, right? When you're drunk, it means you're under the influence. That's what our people are. They're under the influence of false doctrines, lies. They stagger, but not with strong drink, right? It tells you that's not actually talking about wine. You stagger because you're in a false doctrine. You're calling on false gods that your forefathers never knew. You see? Which that's a curse. That's part of the curses. Verse 10. "For Yahweh hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and hath closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers and the seers hath He covered." Right. So you have men of Israel, and during the time of Isaiah, there were lots of prophets, lots of men who were priests in Israel that they didn't have the truth because of the wickedness. Yahweh put them in a deep sleep, closed the eyes of the prophets, right? The seers hath he covered. Some seer is another word for the prophet. But we're living in a time of being refreshed, being woken up. Okay? Yahweh Shai once, because he was after Isaiah, in the flesh, and when Yahweh Shai came, this enabled the you could call it the true Renaissance, was when Yahweh Shai was on the scene, because that was the true rebirth of the nation of Israel. Because now that when Yahweh Shai came on the scene, went up on that cross, died for the elect's sake, he died for all Israel. But for right now, it's the elect that's going to receive salvation, because the 2/3 are going to, they're going to remain in that deep sleep, in that slumber. All right, even those false prophets of the Israelites, you still have them now. Men who are teaching things that are not, they're not sound doctrine. So, the elect are the ones who are going to come out of the deep sleep, who are going to open our eyes. It says, "And the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed." See? And there was a time when you had the majority of the prophets of Israel, they didn't have the understanding. That's why we needed Yahweh Shai. It tells you in Revelation 5 that he loosened the seals. He was the only one worthy to loosen the seals. Okay? But you have men right now that they'll tell you, oh, hey, well, you have a question about the Bible, about the scriptures, and they say, well, we don't know the answer to that. We don't know. The book is sealed. You have a lot of pagan Christians who believe that the book is sealed, but they don't understand that the seals were loosened by Yahweh Shai, and for his sacrifice is why we have this deeper understanding. That's why the Amos 3:7, Yahweh giveth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. Okay? Revelation 5 and I'll start at 2. I'll read 5 and 1. "And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written with the backside, sealed with 7 seals." Right? "And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof." Okay? And the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, that's Yahweh Shai. He was the one who prevailed. He was the one who was that perfect sacrifice, during the time of the Romans, right? And because of that sacrifice, he was worthy to loosen the seals thereof, and that's why we were able to have this understanding. If you have a book and it's sealed up, like you go to a store and the book's sealed up, you can't look at the book, you can't read anything in the book. But if somebody loosened the seal up, now you have access. And that's what Yahweh Shai did. He gave us access to the true knowledge. He gave his prophets, his men, the understanding. Okay? So we go back to Isaiah 29, and that's why it says, because, during the time of Isaiah, there was many prophets of Israel that they were considered learned, but they were doing wickedness. And so the Most High was only dealing with a small remnant, just like now he's only dealing with a small remnant. The elect are the only ones who have the access. And let's read it again. It says in verse 11, "And the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed." Right? And that's not the spirit of the elect. especially in these last days where we are refreshed. We're drunk off the new wine, which is the truth, the refreshed wine, which is knowledge that came back to us that we once had, right, in past lives. Because it tells you in Jude, that, hey, though you once knew this, because we knew the truth. Jude 1:5. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. Okay? So we always tell you about how the first fruits, the elect, the prophets, who were before our spirits were created before the foundations of the earth, before the foundations of the world. So we always knew the truth. But it was Yahushai's sacrifice that had to bring us back into remembrance, that had to loosen the seals, that had to activate us, that had to, basically bring us into remembrance, like it says here. It's a beautiful story when you look at the whole picture, Isaiah 29 and it says 12, and the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he said, I am not learned. Wherefore Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai said, for as much as this people draw near with me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. Okay? And that's our people. The majority of our people, who are they taught by? They're taught by the wicked one. In Babylon, America, who sets up the churches? All these false churches. All these, he allows you to have freedom, a thing called freedom of religion, which that's detrimental to the truth. Because you're not supposed to have no freedom of religion. When we're in the kingdom, we're not going to say, oh, you have freedom, you can worship whatever you want. No, everybody's going to be worshiping Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You're not going to be learning the precepts of men like you are right now. Okay? You're going to be learning the true doctrine. You're going to know the truth if you're an Israelite. It's going to be in your heart. It's going to be in your mind. All right? Because right now, our people, they draw near with their mouth and with their lips, like it says here, and do honor me, but they remove their heart, which is your mind, far from me. All right? And their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. And that's really because if you look at these pagan Christians and these Catholics, these so-called Catholics, all of our people that are caught up in these false doctrines, guess what? They don't have no fear. That's why they're, oh yeah, my grandson is a fag. Oh, my daughter's a transgender. Oh, but I love her. I support her, Why? Because they're taught by the precept of men. They're taught that, oh, that's okay. Instead of doing the righteous thing and correcting that stuff when a child is young, they have the mindset of a Babylonian, and they allow all this wickedness, to come into the fruition, and they allow the wickedness instead of correcting it. Okay. And then pretty soon you go through a couple generations of that wickedness, and it just it's normalized in this wicked ass place. And people, our little kids that are they're transvestites. You got little boys dressing like little girls in the school system. I'm talking elementary, right? Because my youngest, she just basically, she just turned 13, but I was going to the, kids' night out. You go to meet the teachers and this and that. You see all the other people's children. Man, I saw a bunch of little boys dressed like girls. A bunch of little girls dressed like boys, acting like boys. And it's because this place is wicked as hell. And these are the same people, they'll call themselves Christians. And they call themselves, religious people, so-called, right? So, hey, Everything's going to be placed back in its proper order when Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai visit the earth. The men who are standing stiff, not only for the true names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, but are standing stiff for this true doctrine, we're going to be greatly rewarded. We're going to be blessed, right? We're going to be judging with Yahweh Shai on the 12 thrones. We're going to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, and Lord's will, I'm in that number, So that's why we're so diligent. That's why we're on fire for this truth, for this ministry, because we want to make our calling and election sure. Okay? We want to be set up as those men who are judging the wicked of our people and who are judging the heathen. That's our heavenly right. That's our heritage, is to judge these heathen and judge our own people. Okay, but in this world, you're taught, you can't judge. Only God can judge me, and that's not what the scriptures say. Okay, that's a whole other lesson. Lord's will. Maybe sometime in the near future I can do a lesson on that. But the main lesson of this is just to go in on Isaiah 29, showing you that the book is not sealed to the elect, namely the prophets. Okay, we have the understanding, we have the answers. All right, you can go to the pagan Christian church and ask them some, bring up a dark sentence or dark parable, a dark saying. They're not going to have an answer. But you come to the men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and we got all the answers, and we're going to back it up with the scriptures. So with that, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai B'Hashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge Al-Akim, who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.